Hello and welcome everyone to Building Your Brand. I hope everyone has been able to get settled online while I had to fix that. So a few reminders before we begin. Your microphones have been muted on purpose. Please type any questions in the chat, which is located in the lower right-hand corner of the Zoom application. If you do not have that visible, select the chat icon from the menu bar. Any comments or behavior that are deemed unacceptable will result in your removal from today's program. Now that is out of the way, my name is Caitlin, and I am a Public Services Librarian Senior with Plano Public Library. Today, I am assisted by Jamie, who will be monitoring the chat for me. Please say hi, Jamie.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's program.
So today's program will cover the basics of brand development for your business. Before we begin, I do want to emphasize that I am not a business or marketing professional. I am a librarian. Today's program was created based on our library's resources that are available to everyone with a Plano library card. If there are specific business or entrepreneurial questions, I recommend that you connect with our partner, Dallas Score, which is a professional business nonprofit mentoring organization. They have weekly mentoring appointments available at Schimmelpfennig Library on Thursday evenings. We've placed that information on how to make an appointment in the chat. So with that in mind, let's begin. So, what is a brand? So a brand is a type of product manufactured by a particular company under a particular name. It is also known as an identifying mark that indicates ownership. So think about historical and present day ranch owners. They brand their product to indicate that that calf belongs to them. So you're doing the same thing with your business. You're creating a marker that you are placing on your product, on your business that identifies it as yours, and it is unique to yourself. But there are actually a few different types of brands. Now, these are just a few. These are not all, but they are most encompassing of what is used in the industry. So we have corporate, personal, product, and service brands. So what are these? A corporate brand is something that promotes the brand name of a corporate entity as opposed to specific products or services. These tend to have a broader scope than the other listed brand types. So think Apple or Ford. You can usually think those really big brand names, you can think of their logo or a graphic associated. Next, we have personal brands. So these are a conscious and intentional effort to create and influence public perception of an individual. They involve finding your uniqueness, building a reputation on things you want to be known for, and then allowing yourself to be known for them. An example of this kind of brand is Kim Kardashian. The Kardashian name has become in and of itself a brand. So keep that in mind if you're working on developing a personal brand. And next you have a product. This is perhaps the most common type of brand. Product branding is the process of creating a brand for a standalone product. This type of strategy gives a product its own identity. So an example of this would be the MacBook from Apple. It's something that is clearly identifiable. It's something that is synonymous with the larger brand name. And finally, we have service brands. Brand building process for the service industry, including banks, airlines, agencies, or even management consulting firms. It involves all kinds of brand contacts, including employee image and service environment. An example of this is going into an Apple store. The look of the stores combined with the employees and customer service provided is consistent across all Apple stores. And that's part of their brand. That's part of the environment that they've created. So when you think of an Apple store, you think of all of those elements that go into it. Are there any questions about the different types of brands?
No questions in the chat so far.
Okie dokie. Okay, so now that we've gone over the different types of brands, let's start by asking, what is your brand? And what does that really mean? When we're asking, what is your brand? Is it a product, a service? What are you trying to create? What exactly is your goal with creating a brand? These are all important questions to begin asking yourself. Is your brand already established, or are you starting from nothing? Either option is completely fine. Building your brand does not need to occur overnight, and it can change significantly over time as your company develops. So asking these questions is a good first step when creating or reevaluating your current brand. If you're starting from nothing, you have a blank slate to really determine how you want to be associated with your brand. If you're looking at revamping it, it's a great opportunity to reframe, redirect, really heighten your presence. Okay. So what is the first step? It is market research. So market research is actually essential to your brand development. Market research is the process of determining the viability of a new service or product through research conducted directly with potential customers. This is essential to your brand development because it's about ensuring your product is resonating with your audience. By adding in this research, you get to know your competitors and area. This will help to make sure your branding is unique compared to your competitors so that you can capture your audience while maintaining your industry awareness. So if you have not done any market research, I highly recommend that you check out our library research tool reference solutions. And I'll show how to access that tool at the end. We also have offered online classes on our YouTube channel covering reference solutions and how to use it for basic market research. The next thing after doing some basic market research is to consider what is your product. So in terms of your brand development, you should ask yourself, what is your product? Is it an article or something that is manufactured or refined for sale? Or is it a thing or person that is a result of an action or process? Are you providing a service, a good? Who is selling your product? Is it a company? Is it a personal service? Is it just you? A team? This matters more and more to your audience lately as consumers are translating purchasing power into investment into the promoted product identity. An example of this is supporting woman-owned businesses, Black-owned businesses, or even environmentally friendly businesses. The next thing you might ask is, what problem is your product solving? How are you communicating that intent to your audience within your branding? These are all things, again, you want to consider as you're working through developing your brand, building this entity. Are there any questions, Jamie?
No questions in the chat at present. I just want to drop a quick note and say if you are experiencing issues with the chat, those should be resolved now, or you can continue to drop questions into the Q&A as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So next, I'm going to have you consider, who is your target audience? And does your brand match that intent? So your target audience, these are people that are easily moved to want your brand. And so when you think about your brand development, you need to think about who the demographics of your audience are, what region it affects. Is there a cultural audience distinction? What are your audience's personal identities? These are all things that really do affect your brand development. So what do I mean by some of these? So for demographics, that's your basic age, gender, all of those basic demographic ethnic makeups. Region demographic, maybe you're offering a service that is localized to an area. So if you're in Plano, Texas, you don't want to be marketing your hairstyling service to Seattle, Washington. And then cultural movements. Sometimes you are offering a very specific service that is distinct to a culture, and you want to be aware of that so you can market it more effectively. And lastly, you have personal identities. Now, what does that mean? This kind of goes back to the investment of your customers into your brand for reasons of like women-owned businesses and supporting the environment. This is all about targeting your audience to get them to love to support what appeals to their identity. So this could be part of the Pride movement. This could be an ethnic group. This could be even something like nerd culture, which is things like those hyper-focused fan-based groups for Disney. All of these things are key because you also need to know when considering your target audience who is not the audience. Some people will not be interested in your brand or product, and it's important to let them go. Don't waste energy and resources on them. An example would be a cat food company trying to promote their items to someone who owns a dog, a lizard, or a snake. They're clearly not the people interested in your brand, and you don't need to make them buy a cat, nor do you need to branch out and start selling dog food. A good way to define your audience is to develop keywords that encompass your brand and who falls into those categories that you can start to focus in on so your energies are most efficiently used. Okay, so now that we have covered how to define our target audience, we are going to jump into defining your brand identity. So, what is a brand identity? Brand identity includes the visible elements of a brand, such as design, color, logo elements that are memorable to a consumer. All of these elements work together to achieve a cultivated image in their consumer base. And this is done from the choice of name, logo design, usage of color, and other visual elements, promotional language, and customer interactions. This culminates in a brand image, which is the successful or unsuccessful result of these attributes. So how do you define this? How do you get there? You start by defining your core values. How do you do that? It's by asking questions like, what is the brand about? Your core brand values are defined as the beliefs that you, as a company, stand for. An example of this is your company's mission statement, company vision, or any public initiatives that you have. These can also be decision-making examples like committing to environmental or sustainability, promoting woman-owned business status. You can get certified as a woman-owned business. Another example, if you know about Rotary, they made an initiative to focus wholly on polio vaccination. That is their big company-wide initiative, and it's something that they're actually well known for. Your brand is something personal. This is something that can take time and may be developed over time as your business continues to grow. And it can also be affected by current day events. So don't let your brand development get stalled on this detail, but keep it in mind as you continue to define your brand identity and create that identity. So what's next? Developing your brand image. This is where you are going to consider the visual aspects of your brand, and we are going to discuss this aspect more in depth a little later. The third piece of this is actually aligning all of these details with your market research. You did all of that research and you don't need it to go to waste. So while you are defining your brand identity, make sure that you are considering what information you found out about your target audience and the marketplace. Try not to make decisions that go directly against your market research. Really take the time to be intentional about making decisions about your brand identity, because this really is part of what your company is known for. Over here in this graphic, we have your brand, and it's linked to your value, the trust customers have in your entity, your brand strategy for how you go about communicating with your customers, how you make decisions to grow your brand identity. All of this is linked together. It's all a piece of your marketing, advertising, everything. Are there any questions about defining your brand identity?
No questions at this time.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Don't be afraid to drop any questions in the chat. So what's next? It's actually about SMART goals and your brand. So I mentioned this because SMART marketing goals are actionable objectives you intend to accomplish to support your company's broader business targets within a given period. So SMART goals, which are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. These are important tools to keep in mind to help document and maintain standards as you're developing your branding. This is really just a tool to help you and your brand development process to use something to help you stay accountable. Why this is helpful? Utilizing SMART goals can help you keep in mind elements such as your company size, your audience reach, your goals for developing marketing material, your social media goals, product release schedule, etc. All of these elements that are important to running your business, but are also integral to brand development. It can really help you find a frame of reference to stay on track within this huge process. There are many other project management tools and options out there, and feel free to choose what works for you, but we wanted to give you an example of a way that you can get started with building your brand, a way that you can stay documenting your process and everything to keep it manageable. And next, we want you to consider consumer communication and your brand. So this is essential with your brand development, because you need to think about, how are you communicating with your audience? Is it primarily social media? Is it commercial advertising, emails, newsletters, community engagement? Some considerations within this are that it's very important to be intentional and aware of your online presence and communication to ensure that it aligns with your brand. It is very, very hard to change your consumer's impression of your branding once information is out there. So essentially, be careful of what you say. If you are online, if you are communicating in a digital or print aspect, always make sure to run it through spell check. You don't want typos or anything else like that, because once it's out there, you can't ever really get it back. So what's next? Well, we are going to actually dive more into social media and your brand. So, an online presence. It is almost essential to have an online presence with your brand, with your company, your business nowadays. And an online presence, especially with social media, is your opportunity to have direct communication with your audience. It's a chance to highlight products, be an informational tool for your audience, or simply use it as a short burst communications with consumers. But it is also essential to understand that social media and your brand is not a field of dreams scenario. So what does this mean? Field of Dreams is a movie where he builds a baseball field in the middle of the cornfield, and suddenly overnight he becomes a sensation. It's the idea, if you create it, if you build it, people will come. So just because you get online, you post things, it does not mean that people will automatically find you. If you're going to invest time into building your brand on social media, be aware of how consumers find you on the internet. This is where keywords will be of use again, but you want to be very intentional with your communication because it will always be there. So how to utilize keywords. If you're going to focus in on keywords, it's important to be aware of what SEO is, which is search engine optimization. It's essentially how your keywords can tag back to a website or social media post by optimizing it specifically for search engines. If you want to understand more of how to use social networks successfully, you can join us on Wednesday, February 15th, where we will discuss the basics of setting up your social network accounts for job success. This will be held virtually, so make sure to register if you are interested. We'll drop a link again to our calendar for that in the chat. Because this is for job success, this also can be applied to setting it up for your business. So again, what have we learned about social media and your brand? Essential to have an online presence. It doesn't occur overnight, and it is important to be intentional with your communication because it's always going to be there. So with that in mind, let's move on to, well, I'm trying to move to the next slide. Jamie, is it moving on to the slide for y'all?
We moved all the way through back to your full PowerPoint window and
Okay.
off the slides.
Sorry, y'all. It looks like it's frozen for me again, so let me pause briefly to fix that again. So sorry. Okay, give me just 1 second. So sorry, folks. Appreciate your patience. Gotta love technology. It's great when it works. Not so great when it decides to freeze. Okay, so. Okay, sharing again. Again, I appreciate your all's patience. Okay. All right. So it's about brand development and marketing. So how are you marketing your brand? And the tool that we are mentioning today is the sales funnel method, because this is all about how do you create material within your brand to get customers investing in your brand. You want to keep your sales goal in mind, and this is the journey. a potential customer takes from first contact with your company to becoming a customer. This is where you really build awareness of not only your brand, but your product and what problem you are looking to provide a solution for. So once you have captured a large audience from building awareness of your brand and product, this is when you want to move the consumer further down the sales funnel method and show how they would use your product to solve a problem. So what is this referring to? Tofu, mofu, bofu. A really fun acronym, very fun to say, but it's very short for the following. Tofu is top of funnel, mofu is middle of funnel, and bofu is bottom of funnel. So the top of the funnel is really, again, where you're building awareness about your brand and highlighting the problem that you're addressing. As you are getting people further through that funnel, you are actually teaching people how to choose a solution. You're teaching them why your brand, why your product, your service is the best option out of everything out there. And once you're at the bottom of the funnel, you're explaining why your product is the best solution and why they should purchase it. So what does this mean? It's where you create content that is comparing the way their products work against competitor products. So think something like Swiffer. If you think of Swiffer, you can look up, you can see online commercials where Swiffer is comparing their product against a traditional mop, for instance, or the paper towel commercials where one picks up more liquid than the other. This is an example of getting people through that sales funnel method and where you're really, again, wanting to teach your customers and convince them as to why they should choose your solution, your product, your service over everything out there. Are there any questions about this method?
Looks like we don't have any questions right now.
Okie doke, no problem. So next is our visual style guide. So we said earlier that we were going to discuss this in more detail, and it is that time. So what is a visual style guide? This is, goodness gracious, I'm just having all the fun with tech. Okay. This is a guide that includes all elements of your brand. It includes the color scheme, font scheme, logos, and all other graphics, including thumbnail, banners, etc., which make up your brand's iconography. So what is iconography and how does that matter to your brand? So it is defined as the visual images and symbols used in a work of art or a study or interpretation of art. In marketing, this includes all of your brand's graphics that appear on your website, blog, social media, or print materials. If you've heard the phrase, "a picture is worth 1,000 words," this applies to images used for your brand, as well as making it an essential tool of marketing for your business. So color scheme. A color scheme for your visual style guide is the full range of colors that a brand sets as their identity. This will include a primary set, secondary set, and print and digital color palettes. A consideration for print: when you're printing colors, they utilize a coding system called CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, which is your inks that go into a standard printer. And a digital consideration, which is RGB, which is Roy G. Biv, which is how colors are designed for the screen, for computer screens, how light and everything can affect that. And then you have your font scheme. Going back to color, you can think of business entities like Chase Bank, Tiffany's, or Starbucks. They have clearly defined primary and secondary colors that make up their brand's visual image. They never deviate from those predefined color schemes because it would go against their branding. So your color for your branding is very iconic. Chase Bank, it's blue, white, and black. You would never see red. Starbucks has been green for quite a while now, and it is very iconic to their brand. Tiffany Blue, again, very iconic. You think Tiffany's, you think Tiffany Blue, that blue box or bag. Your font scheme. A brand's typography is also essential to conveying a brand's personality. Many brands will even create a custom typeface, a font to reflect their brand and be unique. A font scheme will also include a primary font, which is the most recognizable and commonly used, a secondary font, and a web-safe font, because not all fonts are supported across digital devices. It also can include things like having a serif or sans serif font, which will make it easier to read, depending on whether or not you're using this for digital or print usage. And next we have our logos. So this is your company's, your brand's most recognizable image. And these are meant to convey values of the company and are versatile for both print and digital media. How is this different from your graphics, though? Branded graphics are graphics that your brand designs or creates to match your aesthetic and are uniquely identifiable as belonging to your brand. These can include your logo, color, and font, but are more predominantly templates you create for social media, website posts, letters, flyers, and more. For more information on how color, font, and logo design can reflect on your brand, check out our class, Illustrator Logo Design, on the Plano Public Library YouTube channel. This subject is explained in more detail during that class. If you are wanting to design your own logo, we are also offering on March 3rd, virtually at 3 p.m., an Illustrator Basics class, which was used to create the logos that you see right here on the PowerPoint. And again, just reviewing this down here is an example of a color scheme. You have a very basic example of a custom font scheme and different graphics. So a logo and thumbnails that could be used on social media, a website, etc. Next, we are going to talk about promotional material. So promotional material can include your print and digital elements. So print, you have things like images for newspapers, magazines, brochures, flyers, business cards, and stationery. And then for digital, you have your social media, email, websites, blogs. The whole world is kind of open to you with both of these different types of promotional material. However, don't underestimate the power of print. Understanding where to post your material online or in person is essential, because this is information you have hopefully uncovered in your market research, or whether most of your audience is going to view things online or locally in your community. So it's important to figure out which of these options is going to work best for your brand. So now we're going to jump into some examples of different brands and logos that are out there. So we have, first and foremost, you may recognize this. This is, in fact, the Plano Public Library's logo, and it's this star icon that you see here. And you may notice that we have it on many, many more images within the library system. So there are actually some thought behind our logo. If you weren't aware, we have this star icon in the midst of 5 colors, and that actually represents the 5 locations within the Plano Public Library that we have 5 locations, but we are all part of one library. And each color represents that library location. And it's also got our font. We have a very standard primary font, as well as a secondary font that we use on most of our print and digital material. The next brand that we're going to cover, I don't even have the name here because I'm guessing just from this icon, this logo alone, you know what brand this is. Anyone want to type it in the chat? Jamie, has anyone?
The chat is blowing up with responses of Target.
Perfect. So see, you can see a most successful example here with Target, or Target if you want to be fancy. They have created an image here that is of a Target, and they use it very effectively in their marketing and branding because they want you to know going in that as the customer, you're able to find your Target product in their store. So you have it on your shopping basket, but they also have it here in their marketing for consumers to show that everyone is in their target audience, that they have something at Target for everyone. So it's a very, very clever marketing name, image, and brand. Now, our last example is a made up graphic. This was actually made by a staff member who will be teaching our logo design class over the summer. But it is the Green Thumb Plant Nursery. And just wanted to use this again to highlight these different elements of branding. So you have, again, your color scheme down here, your primary color scheme, and it is very effectively used in all visual elements of their brand. You have also that font scheme here. You have a primary font right here that is unique to the brand. It's very curly, like a brand, like a plant growing. And you also have a secondary font underneath that's a little bit more legible and user-friendly across different media. You also have this graphic that is created that could be used as a logo and promotional material because it's that thumb. It's got that green thumb right there. You also have a thumbprint with the initials. This could be used very easily on print or digital media. And you have a very nice combination of this font here and the thumb. So when you're creating these visual elements for your brand, it is essential to think about how it all will come together and how well are you communicating with your audience by utilizing these elements. So that actually brings us to the end of that content. But before I jump into what we have coming up in the library, are there any questions about brand development? Any questions at all?
All right. Looks like we do have one question. An attendee says, I'm in the process of idea development for a health-related app. You can call it minimum viable product / MVP. How would I brand it when it is still in idea development?
That's the perfect time to begin developing your idea, your brand. So you can do research, market research on your competitors, and really look at the colors that they're using in their branding, and make sure that any colors associated with your brand, you're kind of staying in that sphere. That green thumb image that I just showed, let's see if I can go back. This was actually researched, and a lot of plant nurseries use green. They use browns and this kind of neutral tan. You could even see, like, for let me go back, this nature take a hike. These color schemes were also found from a lot of nature hiking companies. So find a way to research those visual elements of a brand, but find a way to make it unique to yourself. It's also, if you're looking into health, Think about images that inspire you and make you associate with health. Think about what you're trying to convey, because is this going to be a very personal health app? Is it going to be very general? Do you want to convey any kind of whimsy, or is this, because it's health, more serious? Those are all things that you can go ahead and start thinking about as you're developing your brand. Does that help? Does that answer your question, or at least getting started?
I'm not seeing any additional comment in the chat at this time, so we're going to go with yes for now.
Feel free to ask more questions or have me clarify anything.
We do have another question.
Excellent.
So the question is, I want to communicate with potential customers by sending them my recorded PowerPoint presentation, but they are unable to open it. What is the best way to share my presentation via email? And that may be beyond the scope of today's particular program.
It may be that sounds more of a technical support end, but I would say that your options with something like that off the top of my head would be, if you're sending this through an app or email, you should be able to have a recording of your recorded PowerPoint that you send out. I would also diagnose it by looking at what format you're recording this in. Is it being exported to a universal format like MP4? And then look at either sharing through a drop file or some sort of cloud-based service. But that might be a little outside the scope of our brand development.
We did also have an additional suggestion from one of our attendees today who recommends posting it on your social media or website and sending them a link to view from there as well.
That is a great suggestion. And thinking of that in mind, that also can work with your brand development by, if you were to shorten it to a 30 or 45-second clip, you could use that in your marketing on social media. You could also create a YouTube account and post those classes there as well, to drive interest in your brand.
Another question that we have, do we have any upcoming classes related to marketing via social media?
So it's a great question, and kind of hopping into our upcoming programs. So we don't necessarily have anything for marketing for your business, but we do have social networks for job success on February 15th, 3 p.m. virtual. Even though this says it's for job success, this is very applicable for your business, for any entrepreneurial endeavor that you have coming up. I will also just go briefly over this and continue to answer that question. We have essential soft skills on February 2nd, which is also virtual. And soft skills are essential to just about every element of everyday life, for jobs, for marketing your business. They are essential. I would also highly recommend that if you are in the process of growing your business, to connect with a SCORE mentor. This is free. They don't ask for any money. And they are at Schimmelpfennig Library every Thursday evening from 5 to 8. And those are one-on-one appointments. As I mentioned, Social Network for Job Success, February 15th. We also have Get Your Business on Google Search and Maps, February 17th at 3 p.m. And finally, I will mention, because this for the most part is everything coming up just within the next month, we have a TWO's Team Up for Entrepreneurial Success. This next month, we are going to be discussing business finance basics, but this is February 28th at 6:30 at Haggard Library. This is a business networking group that meets monthly. There is no registration required. You can have a business already. You can be just in the idea stage of starting your business. But TWO's has a workshop that lasts about 30 to 45 minutes, in the beginning of the program, and the remainder of the time is spent discussing current questions or needs with your business, to ask your peers for help or to suggest solutions. And this topic does change monthly, and we have discussed marketing in the past, but we are probably also going to discuss marketing once more in the next few months. So just keep an eye out for that. Does that help us answer the question? Are there any further questions?
Let's take a look. I have a thank you for a great presentation that is informative and helpful today.
Oh, perfect. I'm very, very glad to hear that. So what I will leave everyone here today with is, before you all close out, we do have 11 minutes left, and I'm going to try my best to fill those. But if you do need to run away, there is a survey that should pop up after you close this session. Please fill that out, because your feedback is important to the library and it helps us develop more programs that are of use to you. So if you found today's program useful, please let us know, and let us know anything else you'd like to learn about, because we are here to serve our community. Y'all are very important to us. So some additional resources you can get with your Plano Public Library card. We have access to reference solutions. I mentioned it earlier that this is an essential tool to your market research. And we do have recordings on our YouTube channel that you can access, going over how to use this research database. We also have full access to LinkedIn Learning. So if you needed to learn a skill, if you want to learn about search engine optimization, you can go on to LinkedIn Learning and take a full self-paced learning course on that. We have also just gotten access to Gale Entrepreneurship, which is a database fully about entrepreneurship news, resources, business plans, SWOT analysis. You need it, it's probably there. I've mentioned it a few times, but we also have our library YouTube channel. Pardon me, and access to Dallas Score mentors. We have also just gotten access to Udemy, which is a new online learning platform with video. And of course, if you have any questions, my name is Caitlin Tips. I'm a public services librarian senior, and that is my email on the screen if you have any further questions. Now, at this time, I do want to go ahead and showcase our our library website. So if you're not sure where to find those resources, I'm just going to demonstrate that really quick. So give me 1 second to share that screen. Okay. And of course, if you have more questions, feel free to ask. Again, we're here to help. Okay, so where you can find all those lovely databases and resources that I mentioned earlier. So this is our library website. You can get here at planolibrary.org. If you scroll down, you can find our calendar. This is our interactive calendar right here, and right next to it is our Engage brochure, which is a PDF version of the physical booklet you can get at any Plano library. But just clicking on this calendar real quick, you can see here all of our upcoming events. So if you like today's class and you want to find more, you can easily go to this calendar and narrow it down by event category to business and career, because you may not want to see all of the story times. So this is just a way to narrow that down, and you can see everything that's coming up. So as you can see, we actually had reference solutions last week or 2 weeks ago. so that recording is nice and fresh. All right. So going back to the library homepage, I just want to show you really quick where you can find resources for business development. So if you go up to learn and research and learn, and scroll down on that website to business and career, it will take you to all the resources we have relating to business. And there are more than what I had initially mentioned. It is all right here. And we have some basic guides in some cases for how to use it, some quick reference guides. But here's reference solutions. All you have to do is click Access Now, agree to the terms and conditions, and your library card number there, and it'll take you to that full database. So just because I have a few more minutes with y'all, I'll go ahead and mention that we also have on our YouTube channel a full workshop series on Canva. So if you missed that last fall, that complete workshop series, which is 4 classes focusing on just an introduction to Canva and creating print and digital material, even videos for your brand, that is available for you for free on our YouTube channel. Okie doke. So that is all that I have for you today, unless you have more questions. I just want to thank you again for attending our virtual program. And feel free to reach out to any of us if you have any further questions. Thank you so much.